When we are working with fractions of whole numbers, we need to remember that of is equal to a multiplication. So we've got two ways of doing this. The first thing that we can do is we can say our whole number divided by 5 and then multiplied by our numerator. So we can first divide and then we multiply that answer by our numerator. So 35 divided by 5 is equal to 7, and 7 times 3 is equal to 21. So we remember our measurement, and then we've got 21 Rand. So 3/5 of 35 Rand is equal to 21 Rand. Another way of working this out is saying 3/5 of, which is equal to times 35 over 1. So because 35 is a whole number, we put it over 1, and then we just cross cancel. So 5 into itself once, 5 into 35 7 times, and then again 3 times 7 is 21. Let's have a look at another example. If we've got 4/8 of 9 Rand, 4/8 of 9 Rand, the first thing we need to do is simplify our fraction. So 4/8 we know is actually 1 over 2. So we end up with a half of 9, which we might be able to just work out in our heads. But if we were to do it this way using our of, we would say 9 divided by 2 is equal to 4.5 or 4.5. And 4.5 multiplied by our numerator, which is 1, is just 4.5. So we end up with 4.5 Rands, or 4 Rand 50. So if we were to have a look at half of, or multiplied by 9, the same thing would apply as we worked out here. So because we cannot cross cancel with our 2 and our 9, we just multiply our numerators. So 1 times 9 is 9, and we multiply our denominators. So 2 times 1 is 2, and we end up again, if we convert this into a mixed number, we get 4.5, which is equal to 4 Rand 50. If we are to work out 3/4 of 19 meters, what we can say is 3 over 4 multiplied by 19 over 1. And because we cannot cross cancel with our 4 and our 19 or our 3 and our 1, we multiply our 3 and 19 together. So 3 multiplied by 19. 3 times 9 is 27. Carry out 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus our 2 is 5. So 3 times 19 is equal to 57, and 4 times 1 is equal to 4. So this is our answer, 57 over 4 meters. But obviously we don't want to leave it in this form. We want to write it as a decimal, because that's usually how we write our meters. So 57 over 4 is equal to 57 divided by 4. So all we need to do is 57.000 in our house and divide that by 4. And then we say 4 into 5 goes once, remainder 1. 4 into 17 goes 4 times, remainder 1. We remember to bring up our decimal point, and 4 into 10 goes twice, remainder 2. 4 into 2 goes 5 times with nothing left over, so we don't need that 0 there. So we end up with an answer of 14.25 or 14.25 meters. What fraction of 2 Rand is 50 cents? How we work this out, or how we work these types of questions out, is we need to understand that the question is asking us for a fraction. So we know that our answer is going to be in the fraction format. So we need a numerator and we need a denominator. So what fraction of a possible 2 rand is 50 cents? Well, the first thing we need to do is to convert both our 2 rand and our 50 cents into the same measurement. So we can either convert 50 cents into rands, or we can convert our 2 rands into 50 cents. So because when we're converting from rands into cents, we multiply by 100, and when we are converting from cents into rands, we divide by 100. If we were to divide our cents by 100, we would end up with 0.5, which is a decimal. So we'd rather work without decimals because it's slightly easier to work with whole numbers. So let's multiply our 2 rand by 100 to get 200 cents. And then we're working with 200 cents and 50 cents. So what fraction of 200 cents is 50 cents? So what fraction of a possible 200 cents is 50 cents? If we understand what fractions are all about, we would then understand that your denominator is always the number that we could have had, and the numerator is the number that we actually have. So I could have spent my full 2 rand, but I ended up only spending 50 cents of my 2 rand. So that's basically saying my 200 cents was the capacity. So I could have spent 190 cents of my 200 cents. I could have spent 200 cents of my 200 cents, but I chose to rather just spend 50 cents. So 200 is the number that is my capacity. So I could have got up to 200, and the 50 cents is my actual number, what I actually spent. So your denominator will always be the bigger number, so the number that you could have had, and the numerator will always be the number that you actually had. So I spent 50 cents out of my 200 cents. So what fraction of 2 rand is 50 cents? It's 50 over 200. It's as simple as that. The only thing we need to do now is obviously simplify. So we can cross cancel. We can divide both our 50 and our 200 by 10 to get 5 over 20. And 5 over 20 we can simplify down to 1/4. So what fraction of 2 rand is 50 cents? Your final answer is 1/4. Let's have a look at another example. What fraction is 300 meters of 1.5 kilometers? So now this question is asked in a slightly different format. So what fraction is 300 of a possible 1.5 kilometer is different to saying what fraction of 1.5 kilometers is 300 meters. So we need to read our questions very carefully in order to understand what they're actually asking us. So what fraction is the 300 meters that I ran of the possible 1.5 kilometers that I was meant to run? So again, your 1.5 kilometers we are going to convert into meters. So from working from kilometers to meters, we multiply by 1,000. So we end up with 1,500 meters. So we could have run 1,500 meters. That's maybe what we were supposed to have run. But perhaps I tripped and I fell after 300 meters, so I could not continue. So what fraction is that 300 meters of my 1.5 kilometers? I know that I could have gone a full 1,500 meters, but I only went, in reality, this is the actual amount as our numerator, 300 meters. So what fraction is 300 meters of my possible 1.5 kilometers? Your fraction is just 300 over 1,500, and then we obviously need to simplify. So we can divide both our numerator and our denominator by 100 to get 3 over 15, and 3 over 15 we can simplify to 1 over 5. So when we are asked these type of questions, the most important thing for us to realize is that they are asking us for a fraction, so we know that we have to get our answer as a fraction, and they have already given us what the numerator is going to be and what the denominator is going to be. We just need to decide for ourselves which is which. If we are asked a question that says that 3/8 of a grade receive an A aggregate, what fraction of the grade does not receive an A aggregate? So what we need to do is understand that a fraction is equal to a part of a whole. So 3/8, because our denominator is 8, we work with our eighths. So 3/8 is a part of 8/8. So because 3/8 of the grade receive an A aggregate, we know that not all the students in that grade received an A aggregate. If, however, 8/8 of the grade received an A aggregate, we know that all the students in the grade would have received an A aggregate. So because in this question only 3/8 of the grade receive an A aggregate, if we would like to find out what fraction of the grade does not receive an A aggregate, we need to minus our 3/8 from our 8/8, and that will give us our answer. So because our denominators are the same, we can just minus our numerators. So 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. So 5/8 of the grade do not receive an A aggregate. In the same way, if we have got multiple fractions, so let's have a look. If 1/6 of the grade plays rugby, and 3/5 of that same grade play tennis, and the rest play soccer. If we would like to work out what fraction of the grade plays soccer, what we need to do is we need to add the fractions that we already know and then subtract that addition, the sum of those two fractions, from the whole. Right, so let's first add these two fractions together. So we've got 1/6 plus 3/5, and that we need to get a common denominator, which we will find is 30. So I multiplied my 5 by 6 to get 30, so I multiply my 3 by 6 to get 18, and I multiplied by my 6 by 5, so I multiply my 1 by 5, and I get 5 over 30. So 5 over 30 plus 18 over 30 is equal to 23 over 30. So 23/30 of the grade play both rugby and tennis, and we know that the rest will play soccer. So because I know that my whole will be 30/30, I need to subtract my 23/30 from that, and I will end up with the fraction of the rest of my grade. So the rest of the grade plays soccer, so 30 minus 23 is 7, and because our denominators are the same, we know that that's the denominator in our answer, so we end up with an answer of 7/30. So to round it off, we would say, or to just end off the word problem nicely, we say 7/30 of the grade play soccer? How many halves are there in 3 wholes? What we need to understand is firstly what a half is. So when we are talking about halves, we are talking about a number over 2. So 1 half is 1 over 2, and 3 halves is 3 over 2. And 3 wholes, we know any whole is over 1. So 3 wholes is 3 over 1, 5 wholes is 5 over 1. Right, so as long as we understand that, these questions shouldn't be too difficult. So how many halves are there in 3 wholes? What we need to do is consider our 3 wholes, which is 3 over 1. And because we know a half is something out of 2, we just need to make an equivalent fraction, and that should be quite easy for us at this stage. So when I'm making an equivalent fraction and I would like my denominator to be 2, I say, what did I do to my denominator here? To get 2, I multiplied it by 2. So I multiply my numerator by 2 as well to get 6. So how many halves are there in 3 wholes? There are 6 halves in 3 wholes because these are absolutely equivalent to one another. Right, how many quarters, and a quarter is something over 4, how many quarters are there in 4 and 2/8? So let's just rewrite this so it's a little bit more clear. How many quarters are there in 4 and 2/8? So obviously this question would be written in words like it is up here. But just for the sake of space, I'm just going to say the question to you. How many quarters are there in 4 and 2/8? Right, so we need to understand that a quarter is something out of 4. So we now need to work with this fraction and convert this fraction into an improper fraction out of 4. So let's first work with our fraction here that is unsimplified. So 4 and 2/8 is actually equal to 4 and a quarter because 2/8 can be simplified to 1/4. And then we are going to convert this to an improper fraction. So 4 times 4 is 16, 16 plus 1 is 17, and we keep our denominator as 4. So we end up with 17 over 4. So how many quarters is 4 and 2/8, or how many quarters is 4 and a quarter? Your answer will be 17. There are 17 quarters in 4 and 2/8. Right, let's have a look. How many fifths are there in 2 and 4/5? So how many fifths? We know that that's something out of 5 in 2 and 4/5. So obviously we know that we need to be working with this fraction, and we need to convert this fraction into an improper fraction out of 5, but we've already got it out of 5, so that's perfect. And we multiply our 2 and our 5 and we get 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. So we end up with 14 over 5. So our answer will be 14 because 2 and 4 over 5 is equal to 14 fifths. Right, let's have a look at another one. How many thousandths, so a thousandth is something out of 1,000, in 5/8? So how many thousandths are there in 5/8? Well, obviously what I need to do is get my 8 into an equivalent, well, we're going to convert 5/8 into an equivalent fraction out of 1,000. So I need to ask myself, what did I do to my 8 to get 1,000? and that is 125. I multiply 8 by 125 to get 1,000. So obviously you do the same to your numerator to get 625. So your answer will be 625 because 625 thousandths is equivalent to 5/8. If 3/4 of a sum of money, let's say, is equal to 27 Rand, and if we are asked to find what that sum of money is equal to, what we need to do is understand that the sum that we are looking for is equal to, so that's what we're looking for in terms of our fraction. So at the moment we've got our 3/4, which is 27 Rand. We are looking for 4/4 of our sum, which is the whole sum of money. Right, so what are we going to do to our 3/4 to get 4/4? We need to first have a look at what we need to do to 3/4 in order to get to 4/4 most easily. So what we need to do is work with, try and get to 1/4, because if we know what 1/4 of our sum of money is, we will quite easily get to our 4/4, because 1/4 multiplied by 4/4, or 4/1, 4 wholes, will give us an answer of 4/4, which is what we are looking for, because 1 times 4 is 4 and 4 times 1 is 4. So that's what we need to do to our 3/4. We need to try and get 1/4, and once we've got that 1/4, we multiply it by 4 and we'll end up with our whole sum. And obviously whatever we are doing to our fraction over here, we need to be doing to our number over here as well, so that the equal sign will remain, so that we can keep the left hand side of our equal sign equal to the right hand side. Right, so what are we going to do to 3/4 to get 1/4? Because that is what we are looking for first. So if I divide 3/4 by 3, or 3/1, that means that I am saying 3/4 multiplied, because remember, when we are dividing, we need to convert that into a multiplication. So when we are dividing with fractions, we need to convert that into a multiplication, and then we have to flip our second fraction. Right, so dividing 3/4 by 3 is the same as multiplying 3/4 by 1/3. And when we do that, and the reason we were dividing it by 3 is because that is our numerator. So whatever your numerator is, you need to divide your fraction by just that numerator over 1, and that should give you an answer of 1 over your denominator. And the reason for that is because we can then cross cancel. So 3 into itself once and 3 into itself once. So we end up with 1 times 1 is equal to 1, and 4 times 1 is 4. So we end up with our 1/4, which is what we were hoping for. So there's your 1/4, and now we need to multiply your 1/4 by 4 over 1 to get 4/4. But before we do that, we need to deal with our number. So because we divided our 3/4 by 3 to get 1/4, then we know that 1/4 of our sum of money is going to be equal to 27, also divided by 3. And that is equal to 9. So 27 divided by 3 is equal to 9. So 1/4 of our sum is equal to 9. And now, obviously, in our final step, we need to work out 4/4 of our sum, or the whole sum of money. And what do we do to 1/4? To get 4/4, we need to multiply it by 4 over 1, like we mentioned up there. and 4 over 1, or 1 over 4 times 4 over 1 is 4 over 4, or 1 whole. Right, so we multiplied our quarter by 4, so we need to multiply our 9 by 4. So 4 over 4 of our sum of money is going to be equal to 36, because 9 times 4 is 36. So 3/4 of our sum of money was 27 Rand, and therefore our whole amount of money, the whole sum of money, is equal to 36 Rand. And what we can do, let me just rub this out so that I've got some space. What we can now do is see whether our answer is actually correct by checking. So we can then, wherever we see that sum, we can plug in our 36 and see if it works out. So 3/4 of, or multiplied by 36 Rand over 1, and that should give us an answer of 27. So let's have a look. Let's cross cancel. 4 fits into itself once. 4 fits into 36 9 times. 3 times 9 is 27, and 1 times 1 is 1, so it's 27 over 1, or 27 wholes, which is what we were hoping for. So we know that our 36 is correct, because when we plugged our 36 into our sum, we ended up with the same answer as we had in the beginning. If 7/8 of a certain distance is equal to 420 meters, and we are asked to find what the full distance is, what we need to do is remember that we are currently working with 7/8 of that distance, which is equal to 420 meters, and our full distance in terms of our fraction is going to be 8/8. So what we need to do is, remember, we need to see what our numerator is, and we divide our number by our numerator. So we divide our 420 by 7, and that will give us an answer of 60 meters. And then that 60 meters is now equivalent to 1/8 of our distance. So 1/8 of our distance is 60 meters. So our 8/8 of your distance, which is what we are looking for because that is your whole distance, is going to be equal to 60 multiplied by 8, because we multiply 1/8 by 8, or 8 over 1, in order to get our 8/8. Right, so 60 meters multiplied by 8 gives us an answer of 480 meters. And again, we can plug that in to our, so if we plug in 480 meters there, then we can pretend like our of is a multiplication, and we can put this over 1, and we can cross cancel. So 8 fits into itself once, 8 fits into 480 60 times, and 7 times by 60 is equal to 420. So we know that our 480 meters is our correct answer. Right, if we have a look at another example, 9/11 of a number, any particular number, there's no measurement attached to it, is equal to 108. What is that number? So again, what we need to do is we need to divide our number by 9, all right? And that will give us what 1/11 is equal to. So 1/11 of our number, because when we divide 9/11 by 9, we end up with 1/11. So therefore, that's why we divided our 108 by 9 as well. So 1/11 of 9 is equal to 108 divided by 9, and that is equal to 12. And if we would then like to work out what 11 11 elevenths of our number is equal to, which means we multiply. So we said 1 over 11 multiplied by 11, or 11 over 1, is equal to 11 over 11. We then need to multiply our 12 by 11 as well, and we end up with an answer of 132. So 9 elevenths of our number is equal to 108, and that number is therefore equal to 132. So let's have a look. If we work out 9 elevenths of 132, or 132 over 1, and we can multiply. 11 fits into itself once, and 11 fits into 132 12 times. 9 times 12 is equal to 108, which is what we had there. So that's perfect. We know that our 132 is correct. Right, let's just make space for one more example. If 3/14 of a particular number is equal to 21, what is that number going to be? So we are looking for this number. So we know that we are looking for 14/14. At the moment, we've got 3/14 of that number, which is equal to 21. So we divide our 21 by 3, and let's use a different color. We divide our 21 by 3 because we always divide it by our numerator, so that we end up with 1/14. So 21 divided by 3 is equal to 7. So 1/14 is equal to 7, and 14/14 is therefore going to be equal to 7 multiplied by 14, because 1 over 14 times 14 over 1, or just 14, will give us our 14 over 14. So 14 over 14 is equal to 7 multiplied by 14, and 14 multiplied by 7 we can do on the side. 7 by 4 is 28. 7 by 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. So we end up with an answer of 98. So that number there is equal to 98. And again, you can plug your 98 in there to check whether 3/14 of 98 is in fact 21.